Friday, the 10th of July, 2026. Let us dive straight into the deep end with Liz. According to the latest behind the scenes whisper, Friday's episode revolves around a fresh wave of intense tension when Liz discovers a highly suspicious clue on a laptop. She is looking over a report, and immediately her instincts kick into overdrive. And it seems like this tiny, easily missed detail is going to blow the lid off a massive cover up. What if this report is the exact missing link that connects the recent chaotic events? High chances are that Liz is not going to just let this go. The truth might be way more complicated than a simple typo or a misfiled document. It seems like someone intentionally altered this report to hide a very dark secret. As we dissect this unconfirmed leak, we have to ask ourselves what exactly Liz is looking at on that screen. What if the report is directly tied to the ongoing medical mysteries or the recent criminal activities? High chances are that the person who walked away on their own in that report is actually deeply involved in the current nightmare. It seems like Liz is going to trust her gut, but doing so might put a massive target on her back. The truth might be way more complicated, especially if the person trying to cover their tracks is someone she previously trusted. We have to wonder if Liz will take this information to the police or try to handle it herself. What if she accidentally tips off the mastermind by asking the wrong questions? While Liz is playing detective, the authorities are aggressively pursuing their own leads. This brings us to Chase, who is relentlessly digging for the truth. The hush-hush rumor is that Chase is going to directly confront Lucy about the official statement she gave to the police regarding Willow. It seems like Chase has finally realized that the narrative being pushed does not add up. High chances are that he senses Lucy is hiding something crucial, perhaps because she was pressured or bought off. What if Chase manages to break her resolve? The truth might be way more complicated than a simple lie of omission. It seems like Chase will use every tactic to squeeze the real story out of her. The behind-the-scenes whisper suggests that this confrontation between Chase and Lucy is going to be incredibly intense. What if Lucy accidentally lets slip a detail that completely destroys the fake narrative? High chances are that she is terrified of the backlash, but Chase is not giving her an inch to breathe. It seems like the writers are setting up a scenario where Lucy has to choose between protecting her own interests and doing the right thing. The truth might be way more complicated because Lucy is deeply entangled in corporate and personal messes. What if her confession to Chase is the exact catalyst that shifts the entire investigation? We have to consider the possibility that Lucy might try to strike a deal with Chase for total immunity. And speaking of that investigation, the unconfirmed leak paints a horrifying picture for Willow. The drastic storyline shift indicates that her situation is going from bad to an absolute nightmare. It seems like she is about to face another devastating blow as her legal troubles continue to pile up. High chances are that whatever new evidence Lucy provides, or whatever the police uncover, is going to lead straight to a formal arrest. What if Willow is dragged into the interrogation room, completely blindsided by fabricated proof? The truth might be way more complicated because we know she is being framed, but the evidence against her is mounting at an alarming rate. The hush-hush rumor mill is buzzing with theories about how Willow will survive this ordeal. What if the police present her with GPS data or a manipulated video that places her right at the scene of the crime? High chances are that Willow will feel entirely helpless, realizing that an unseen enemy has orchestrated this perfect trap. It seems like the writers want to push her to the very edge of despair. The truth might be way more complicated, as the person orchestrating her downfall is someone embedded deeply within her own extended family circles. What if Willow begins to suspect the wrong person, lashing out at her allies while the real culprit watches from the shadows? We must prepare ourselves for some truly gut-wrenching scenes as Willow fights a losing battle. Meanwhile, the actual mastermind behind this misery is starting to feel the heat. According to the behind-the-scenes whisper, Brooklyn is being dragged right into the center of a massive storm of criticism. It seems like the family tension is reaching a boiling point, and Brooklyn is standing on very thin ice. High chances are that Tracy is beginning to see right through the facade. The truth might be way more complicated because Tracy actually despises Willow, so she might secretly applaud the sabotage while publicly condemning the sloppiness of the execution. It seems like a fierce confrontation between Brooklyn and Tracy is imminent, and it will be explosive. Let us deeply analyze this unconfirmed leak regarding Brooklyn and Tracy. What if Tracy corners Brooklyn behind closed doors and demands the absolute truth? High chances are that Brooke Lynn will try to deflect, but Tracy is a master interrogator in her own right. It seems like Brooklyn is suffocating under the weight of her own guilt and the fear of her marriage collapsing. The truth might be way more complicated. What if Tracy offers to help Brooklyn cover her tracks, but for a steep, manipulative price? We have to wonder how long Brooklyn can maintain this delicate balancing act before her entire life shatters. What if the guilt of seeing Willow arrested finally forces Brooklyn to crack, leading to a shocking confession that ruins everything she has built with Chase? Shifting gears, the hush hush rumor reveals a deeply emotional turn for Jordan. It seems like Jordan is harboring a heavy, suffocating secret regarding the recent tragedies. High chances are that the guilt is eating her alive, leading to a highly emotional confession. What if Jordan saw something on the night of the accident that she has been keeping hidden? The truth might be way more complicated than a simple memory lapse. It seems like Jordan might have recognized a vehicle or a piece of clothing, but suppressed the memory out of fear. What if her upcoming confession completely exonerates Willow but implicates someone Jordan deeply cares about? We are looking at a drastic storyline shift that could alter the entire trajectory of the investigation. While Jordan battles her conscience, Curtis is taking desperate measures to save his own future. The behind-the-scenes whisper confirms that Curtis is seeking out Martin for urgent legal assistance. It seems like Curtis is trying to find any possible escape route as the odds stack heavily against him. High chances are that Martin is the only lawyer cunning enough to find a loophole in this mess. What if Curtis is facing a plea deal that would ruin his life, and he needs Martin to perform a legal miracle? The truth might be way more complicated, as Martin's services never come without a unique set of complications. It seems like Curtis is willing to risk everything, putting his trust in Martin's unconventional methods to clear his name and avoid a devastating prison sentence. Let us speculate on this unconfirmed leak about Curtis and Martin. What if Martin discovers that the charges against Curtis are based on tainted evidence or a biased witness? High chances are that Martin will use his signature theatrical tactics to dismantle the prosecution's case. It seems like Curtis is feeling incredibly vulnerable, and relies heavily on Martin's confidence. The truth might be way more complicated. What if Martin demands a favor from Curtis in return that crosses a dangerous moral line? We have to ask ourselves if Curtis is jumping from the frying pan into the fire by aligning with Martin during such a chaotic time. What if their legal strategy inadvertently exposes another character's dark secrets? Now, brace yourselves for the romantic devastation. The hush-hush rumor points to a heartbreaking crossroads for Sonny and Justine. It seems like their relationship is hitting a massive, immovable wall. High chances are that the tension between them has finally snapped. The unconfirmed leak details a scene where a visibly hurt and frustrated Sonny looks at Justine and asks if this is the last time they are going to see each other. What if Justine has decided that being tied to a mob boss is professional and personal suicide? The truth might be way more complicated. It seems like Justine is preparing to close the door on this romance, prioritizing her career and safety over her feelings for Sonny. What if Sonny's desperate plea is met with a cold, calculated silence that shatters his heart? The behind-the-scenes whisper about Sonny and Justine is truly agonizing to process. What if Sonny realizes that all his power and influence cannot force someone to stay when they want to leave? High chances are that Justine is deeply conflicted, fighting back tears as she makes the hardest decision of her life. It seems like the writers are stripping Sonny of his emotional anchors, leaving him vulnerable to his enemies. The truth might be way more complicated. What if Justine is being threatened by an outside force to break ties with Sonny in order to protect him? We have to wonder if this breakup will send Sonny spiraling back into his darkest habits. What if this emotional severing is the exact catalyst that pushes Sonny to make a reckless mistake? Finally, we must talk about the absolute chaos surrounding Jens. The drastic storyline shift reveals that Jens is currently in police custody, and he is absolutely furious. It seems like he has realized that he was set up. High chances are that Jens is going to tear the interrogation room apart with his unbridled rage. The unconfirmed leak mentions him angrily accusing a stranger, demanding to know how they could sell him out. What if Jens thought he had an airtight alliance, only to be stabbed in the back at the final hour? The truth might be way more complicated. It seems like Jens's capture is not the end of the story, but rather the beginning of a massive unmasking. What if the person who betrayed Jens is someone we have trusted this entire time, hiding in plain sight? Let us dig deeper into this hush-hush rumor about Jens. What if the stranger he is accusing is actually an undercover operative who infiltrated his inner circle? High chances are that Jens is going to use his one phone call to initiate a devastating contingency plan. It seems like Jens feels completely humiliated, and a humiliated villain is the most dangerous kind. The truth might be way more complicated. What if Jens decides to start naming names, pulling down powerful citizens with him? We have to consider the massive fallout if Jens reveals the identities of his inside men. What if his fiery accusations lead to a chain reaction of arrests that rocks the entire foundation of the city? The pieces are moving on the board, and the stakes have never been higher. Seems like every single secret is on the verge of a catastrophic detonation. What